Hey guys, welcome to this video of NetICE. In this video we're gonna leave the CMDB nodes behind and we're gonna look at modeled nodes, or what we call in short ICE nodes. In this video we're gonna start at the build, and in the build you will see multiple pieces come together. This is your main page where you enter NetICE. So what do we see on the left side in the menu? You will see the main, that's the area we are in right now. You will see regions, domains, you will see servers, MPLS, VPNs, etc. What it is all about is about structured data. So how do we get structured data into NetICE and how to make sure that that comes out in any format that you like. Most of the time this is configuration wise, to provide some syntax for a specific node. Sometimes this would be an integration with something else where you would send out API calls to another system where you also need access to the data that you have in the database. So let's have a look. When we talk about regions and domains, it's about variables that are accessible for multiple nodes or multiple areas. As you can imagine, regions could be something like if you have a worldwide network where you have different DHCP servers or DNS servers per region, this would be the area to put that information in. So just to show you something, here you see some bogus data, but here you could specify, okay, I got my servers in this ICE region. There could be DNS servers, NTP servers. You could create another one here where you would specifically mention a different region where you wish to store that specific information. Okay, so when we talk about domain, you've already seen part of it because you had to provide your credentials for accessing your nodes. Here you can have your domain-wide variables specified as well. So again, you are free to apply this in any way you see fit. By default, we give a domain because you always need a domain to connect your nodes to be able to use the username and password provided in here to access your nodes. But this could be, again, there could be one domain for your entire network. There can be multiple if you have, for example, different username and passwords between your PE and CPE devices, or you have your wide area network configured one way and you have your LAN or your data center configured another way. This could store the different data that you require for each setup or each environment. You will see that there is a bunch of static keys that can be filled. There is some user information here. There is some routing information that could be filled. Again, not everything has to be filled, but can be filled and can be used in your templates in one way or another. Okay. MPLS VPNs, especially in provider worlds, but also in enterprises, you will see the use of MPLS and VRFs, which could be VRF Lite as well, right? It's about having access to these specific numbers with their specific data. So let's pick one. Here you can add your information with regards to that VRF ID or VRF name, and you can add a whole bunch of it. Okay, let's move back to the build and let's see how this is structured as well. So at the top of the screen you have the client, and within a client there can be one or multiple sites, right? So if I just click this, you can see a site pops up, and within a site you can have one or multiple services. Within the servers there can be linked one or multiple nodes. So as you can see, it's all about a 1 to n relationship. You can create your whole tree of information. Okay, let's just dive into each one of those. So we have the client. Here we have a client code. We already provided that. And there's a client name. There can be linked supernets to it. We're going to talk about that in a different video. There can be custom attributes. These can be defined per your use case as well. Those custom attributes, you're gonna see them more often. They're gonna be treated, especially in course number 3. but for now we have provided some and you can use them for your benefit. On the side, same story, there's a bunch of already provided keys that you can fill, and we have custom attributes as well. Looking at the service, so a service contains subnets, right? And they can contain some custom attributes again as well. And if we look at one of those subnets, there can be either IPv4, IPv6, and within each of those subnets, you can add a whole bunch of data that goes with it. So there's usually the net name, net description that is required. You wish to add your network address, net mask sizes. You can assign templates to each of those subnets. You can link them to a VRF if you wish. There are some select buttons that can be used again in your template as well, so you can build your logic around it, saying, okay, if multicast is true, then I wish to apply additional configuration. If you have, or if you wish to use some distributed topology or point-to-point topology, these fields could be filled either manually, either service types, which will again be covered in course 3. But here you could add your information. For example, I could type something in here that will give me a value which I could use. It is checking if it is an IPv4 address, so it will help you to make sure your data is valid. Okay, before I forget, at the top we got the DHCP as well, which you could enable for your subnet, and you could use all these values, or you could use all the keys, and you can put in your variables. Okay, same applies for IPv6, same story, I guess that's clear. So when we look at the node, let's jump back to the service. So when you see the service, here's the service name, you will also see all the nodes that are linked to it. In this case, only one node is linked to it, so let's have a look at that specific one. So we got node name R1, we can open it up, and you see some data. All this data has been filled by the design, by the model, which we already prepared for you in this course. You will learn how to manipulate this in course 3, so you can do it yourself as well. So here, most important things are the domain, which it is linked to, where it stores the username and password to access this node. You will see the IPv4 address used for management, the enable secret if needed to communicate with the device. You can store again custom attributes specifically on this node as well. And then there are ports, topology and VRFs over here. So let's have a look. In this case, we only got a management port, but we are free to add something to it. Let's say we wish, I already created some port templates for this one. So here we could say, okay, we have a user template for a gigabit Ethernet port. I wish to apply that to slot number 0/0, and I want port 1 to port 5 to have that user template applied. Okay, we press OK. You see these ports have been created. These use internal naming. We'll get to that in more detail along the way. But you can see here we got 5 additional ports modeled in the database. Okay, let's jump to VRFs. As you can see, currently I don't have a VRF link to it, but we could connect to it to one. So let's connect it to the management VRF. We press OK, and now this VRF is instantiated on this node as well. You will get the data from it. Here the loopback is automatically filled for the route target. This can all be set to your environment. Again, on the VRF we can add custom attributes as well. Okay, important part here. If you wish to use this VRF for management purposes, so for example, when you wish to back up, or which is automatically done, when you wish to communicate to the device, and you're making changes, backups pre and post are done. And if the VRF management is set to 1, that specific VRF will be used to communicate back to NetEase. So that can be especially important for Cisco XR, where it's enabled by default. So be aware of that. We will touch upon more of that in detail in a later video. Okay, and there we got the topology. So here we created a few ports. We did that in a previous step. So we could say, okay, this port, I wish to have that linked to a subnet, right? So you could enable that subnet on that specific port, or you could enable or link this port to a different node on a different port. So you will get a topology between those. We're going to dive in that in a later video, but just wanted to show you that for now. Okay, we touched upon the clients, the sites, services, the nodes, the subnets on them, the ports on them, some of the VRFs, the domains and the regions. So let's recap a little bit what and how this all is linked. So I've created a little drawing here that might help you understand, or at least to look back at, to see how all these things are linked together. So again, here at the bottom we got the client. A client is linked to a region. On a client you can have one or multiple sites, you can have one of multiple servers on it with one or multiple nodes on that service, as well as subnets that belong to that service. From the node perspective, we can enable VRFs on that specific node. We can add ports to them. Ports can be linked again back to the subnets, and the subnets can belong to a VRF as well. So those have a dependency of the VRF, which is defined in the MPLS VPNs, orange arrows. The node is dependent on the domain, the blue arrow, and that makes the picture complete. Except for the ports, which you can create a topology to another node on a port, and therefore you can create a whole tree of devices that are linked together. Okay, so in further videos we're gonna dive in deeper and deeper on how to use this information, how to manipulate it using the front end, and how to use that information in templates and command jobs. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon.